So now it's with great pleasure that I get to introduce Dr. Noble, someone who came to ASU, somebody who's walked these very halls that you are, that sat in the chairs that you've sat in, sat in the classrooms. He and I have reminisced a little bit about some time we didn't have classes together, but I know he and Dr. Wilkie have spoke to where he was here as a student of ASU. So with that, Dr. Derek Noble has been helping leaders take their skills to the next level of excellence for 2 decades. Throughout his youth, Noble endured years of speech therapy for a severe stutter and speech impairment, once quoted as stating he was the least likely person to be a professional speaker. Dr. Noble has since gone on to become an award-winning keynote speaker, 2-time TEDx speaker, a speech coach, and a trainer. In December of 2022, Noble released his highly anticipated first book, Leadership Launch: Essential Skills for New Leaders. It quickly became an international bestseller and was designated as the #1 new business book worldwide within the first 2 weeks of availability. Dr. Noble's clients include the United States Air Force, the United States Navy, the United States Forestry Service, the FBI, the City of Los Angeles, and many more. Noble has a Bachelor's of Arts degree in English with a double minor in speech communication and psychology from Angelo State University in 1994. He is one of our own, a Master of Divinity at Doctor of Ministry, and completed his PhD coursework in educational curriculum at Emory University. Noble is an avid fan of the Los Angeles Clippers, Lakers, and Dodgers, as well as classic jazz. He also plays the jazz trombone himself. In addition, he is an ardent golfer and loves watching classic martial arts movies. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Noble to the stage.
Good morning. I'm going to make 3 promises to you, and I want you to only make 2 promises to me in return, okay? I'm going to make 3 promises to you. Promise number 1 I make to you. I promise you I will not be long and boring, okay? Most people usually applaud when they hear that promise. That's my number 1 promise. I promise you I'm not going to be long and boring. Promise number 2 I make to you. I promise you that if you listen and pay attention, you're going to learn something that's going to have a major impact on your life and the life of anybody that you share it with. I am not here to waste your time. I promise you, if you pay attention, you'll get something worthwhile. Third promise I make to you. I know when we're in college, we're always worried about having to take notes. You do not have to take notes, because at the end of our time together, I'm going to show you how to get my entire PowerPoint presentation on your phone, in your email, before you walk out these doors. So now, if you want to take notes, by all means, if you want to take notes, feel free to take notes, but you don't have to. I've got you covered, okay? If you want to, go ahead and take your phone out and do some screenshotting if you want to, but you do not have to take notes. I've got you. You've got my PowerPoint presentation. Everybody cool with those 3 promises from me? Okay, are you ready for the promises you make to me? Promise number 1 I want you to make to me. I want you to just be fully present for the next few minutes. Promise me you'll focus. Promise me you'll listen. Promise me you'll pay attention. I want you to be focused and present, okay? Be here in the moment. Everybody cool with that one? Here's your second promise I want you to make to me. I want you to promise me that you're going to find at least one person you know of who was not here today, and share with them what you learned. Maybe it's a fellow student of yours who's not in the room. Maybe it's a parent. Maybe it's a friend back home. I want you to just find at least one person. Now, if you want to find more than one, feel free to find more than one. But I want you to find at least one person who was not here and share with them what you learned. Everybody cool with those? You ready to do this? Fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a fun ride. I want to show you something. Anybody familiar with this? Have you seen these before? Raise your hand if this looks familiar to you. Okay. Years ago, in ancient Greece, there was a famous actor who was known for his breathtaking performances. And people would come from all over the world just to watch this man on stage. And what made him famous was not just his superior acting ability. What made him famous was the mask that he wore. For every performance, he would put on this beautifully crafted, dramatic mask that would hide his face. And people thought that what they saw when he was performing was who he really was. And when he had the mask on, he felt like he was untouchable. He felt like he was powerful. He felt like he was perfect. He felt confident whenever he had this mask on. But after every performance, when the lights were turned off and the curtain had fallen and the theater was empty, he would retreat backstage. And there, in the dark and in silence, he would slowly remove his mask. And what was left when he took the mask off was not the confident person that people had just seen on stage. The person who was left behind whenever he took his mask off was somebody who doubted his own abilities. He was fearful, and he didn't think he was as good without the mask on. One day after one of his appearances on stage, his mentor, the person who had taught him acting years ago, his mentor came to him. And I want you to remember the word mentor, because we're going to come back to that word just a little bit later. But one day his mentor, the man who had taught him how to act, came to him after one of his performances backstage. Lights were off, curtain was down, crowd was gone, and his mentor said, "Great performance, but next time, I want you to take the stage without your mask. Do the performance without your mask on." And the actor immediately started to protest. He said, "Absolutely not. I can't do that. See, without the mask, I won't be good enough. Without the mask, they won't like me. They won't know me. They're used to this mask. I can't do it without the mask." And his mentor chuckled slightly, and here's what he said to him. "The mask doesn't make you powerful. You do. It's time for the world to see the real you. It's time for the world to see the man behind the mask." Well, he respected his mentor, so he did what his mentor suggested. At the very next performance, with trembling hands, he mounted the stage for the very first time in his career without his mask on. He felt vulnerable, he felt exposed, and he was certainly scared. But as the performance went on, something remarkable began to happen. This actor connected with his audience in a way that he had never connected before. And people were on the edges of their seats. There wasn't a dry eye literally in the theater. People were crying. People experienced every emotion. And when he got done, he got the longest standing ovation of his career. He had connected with them in a way that he had never done before. And it dawned on him that all of this time, he had been cheating his audience out of a great experience because he was hiding behind the mask. Once he took that mask off, he discovered his true potential. Have you ever walked into a room full of people that you supposed had everything together, people who you thought had it all together, and you walked into that group of people and you began to say to yourself, I'm not sure if I belong here? Have you ever achieved something? I'm not going to ask you to raise your hand, but I just want you to think. Have you ever achieved something and then started to wonder whether or not you really earned that achievement? Have you ever achieved something and started to doubt whether or not you deserved it? Maybe you got accepted to ASU, maybe even got a scholarship to ASU, and you began to wonder whether or not you really have what it takes to not only matriculate, but to graduate. You don't have to raise your hand, but I can see it in your eyes. Some of you, and I see you nodding your heads, you've doubted yourself before. Maybe you've doubted yourself because people have always told you what you could not be or what you could not do or who you were not. Those voices are the mask talking to you. That's that imposter within whispering lies to you. You see, imposter syndrome is the persistent feeling that you do not deserve your achievements. It's that nagging feeling that not only are you not good enough, but one day somebody's going to discover that I'm really not good enough. I really don't deserve to be in this honors class. I really don't deserve to have this scholarship. And oh my God, if I don't work my behind off, I might just lose this scholarship. People are going to discover that I'm not all that. Don't raise your hand. But how many of you have ever experienced that before? And let me tell you why sometimes you experience that. Because those voices that you hear sometimes come from your childhood. You're hearing from a person who had a burn scar when I was a child. I had 3 plastic surgeries because I pulled a hot pot of coffee over on me. So I have burn scars. One of the reasons you'll never see me wearing shorts and never see me wearing a tank top is I'm still kind of self-conscious about that. But growing up, the people who are supposed to protect me from ridicule are the ones who made fun of me. They're the ones who talked about me, called me ugly. Dad called me dumb regularly. I know what it's like to doubt yourself, not just because you feel inadequate, but because everybody around you feels or makes you feel inadequate. I know what that's like, but guess what? That's the mask talking. That's the imposter within whispering lies. And today, we are going to rip that mask off and throw it away. Today is the day you stop doubting yourself. And you're hearing from somebody who's been there. Today is the day you stop doubting yourself. I'm going to give you 5 steps. And again, you don't have to take notes. Take notes if you want to, but I'm going to show you how to get this presentation in its entirety when we're done. I'm going to give you 5 steps to help you kick imposter syndrome to the curb forever. If that sounds like something you want to hear, say, bring it on, Doc. Say it like you mean it. Bring it on, Doc. Everybody ready? Okay, I'm going to give you 5 steps to defeat imposter syndrome forever. Step number 1. Everybody ready? Feel free to write this one down. You don't have to write it down. I'm going to give you the PowerPoint when we're done. Step number 1. You have to recognize the lies for what they really are. First of all, let's acknowledge something that we all need to hear. Imposter syndrome is a liar. It tells you that you're not good enough when you absolutely are good enough. It tells you you're not worthy. It tells you you're not smart enough when you absolutely are worthy and smart enough. Let me just give you a tip here. If you're in the room, remember I said if you ever walked into a room and started to doubt yourself, if you're in the room, trust yourself. You deserve to be there. You have earned your way into it. Success does not happen by accident. Success is by design, and whatever success you have in your life, trust yourself. You deserve to be there. You've earned your spot there. Imposter syndrome tries to make you doubt yourself and make you think that you're not worthy. And the next time you hear that voice, I want you to tell that voice, I did not come this far to start doubting myself now. I have earned the right to be here. I'm going to give you some nuggets of wisdom along the way. And Noble's nugget number 1, take a look. I want you to read it, and I want you to say it to yourself. You don't have to say it out loud, but I want you to say that to yourself over and over again until it registers. The only thing worse than the lies other people tell you are the lies you tell yourself. Anybody like me have a parent who said nasty, mean things to you? Anybody like me? I feel you. I'm with you. Anybody have family members, relatives? And you know what? It wasn't just when I was a child. It happened as a child, but it continued into adulthood. To this day, unless he watches this video, I have a family member who doesn't know that I know this. But all throughout childhood, he talked about my burn scars and called me ugly and always compared his friends to mine. And said, you see, that's why nobody wants you, and that's why you don't have a girlfriend. That's why you ain't got nobody. And not too long ago, I was in my 30s. I'm a grown man at this point, and we're at a family gathering. And to this day, he does not know that I know this because I was around the corner. He thought I was out of earshot. We were at a family gathering in Chicago, and I had brought with me the person I was dating at the time. So my family member, who had grown up telling me how ugly I was, I got around the corner and I heard him say, how did Derek get somebody who looked that good? See, I wasn't 7 years old. I was 32. It still happens. The only lies that are worse than the lies other people tell you are the lies you tell yourself. Here's what I mean by that. See, if your daddy calls you stupid, that's bad enough. But it becomes worse when you start repeating your father's words in your own voice. And somebody here, you're repeating those negative words now in your own voice. You've been called stupid so long. You've been called ugly so long. They call you too fat. You might realize you're always too something for somebody. You're too black. You're too fat. You're too tall. You're too skinny. Those lies are bad enough, but they become worse when you start believing what you hear and you start repeating it for yourself. So I want you to practice. You may feel silly doing this. I'm going to give you a homework assignment. I want you to practice. Anybody, and I saw you raise your hand, and there were more of you that wanted to raise your hand, but you didn't, and that's okay. I feel you. But I want you, before the day is over, I want you to go to the mirror, and trust me, the first few times you do this, if you've never done it before, you're going to feel really silly. But I want you to go to the mirror, and I want you to start practicing speaking into your own life. See, some of you are waiting for people to say good things about you, and you need to stop waiting and realize you can take it into your own hands. You have the right to rewrite the story that other people have been trying to write for you for years. So I want you, before the day is out, just look yourself in the mirror and start telling yourself some good things, okay? I know some of you, anybody here grow up in church like I did? Have you ever heard that scripture that says faith comes by hearing? You know what that means? What it means is when you hear something over and over and over again, you eventually begin to believe it. Dad called you stupid. If they call you stupid 5 times, call yourself intelligent 10. If they call you ugly 5 times, call yourself beautiful 10. The only thing worse than the lies you tell that others tell you are the lies you tell yourself. That's the first step. Everybody ready for the second step? Here's the second step. If you're going to kick imposter syndrome to the curb, you've got to surround yourself with the right people. If you're going to kick imposter syndrome to the curb, you've got to surround yourself with the right people. Let me tell you something critical. Your environment will shape your reality. Show me your friends, and I'll show you your future. Whatever you are around is what you become. I am not a smoker. But yesterday I caught an Uber. I am not a smoker. I don't like the smell of cigarette smoke. If you're a smoker, I love you. I love you from a distance. You know, let's just shake hands. But I rode in a car with a smoker. I do not smoke. I don't like the smell of it. When I got out of the car, guess what I smelled like? I had not put a cigarette in my hand. Why did I smell like smoke? Because I was around it long enough. Some of you need to realize that the people you're around are determining your future. So watch this. Is there anybody here? Don't raise your hand. And if the person is seated next to you, just look at me and blink. Let me know you're a hostage. I mean, don't. Yeah. Okay. If you're seated next to that person, let me just ask you something. Do some of you need to start going through your cell phone and deleting people? Do some of you need to go through some of your friend circles and say, you know what? I love you, but I'm going to have to love you from a distance because we're going in opposite directions. You've got to realize that what you hang around is what you eventually become. You've got to surround yourself with the right people. At critical moments in my life, I was surrounded by people who were able to combat those negative voices that I heard, because I heard negative voices all throughout childhood. So I was able to surround myself. I thank God I surrounded myself with some people. Some of them found me, but I found some of them. One of them was my intermediate school principal, Dr. Lionel Ward. In fact, I dedicated my book, Leadership Launch, to Mr. Ward, because Mr. Ward found me when I was a fifth grade student, hiding in the library because I was always getting picked on and bullied on the playground. So my teachers let me stay in the library instead of go to recess because I got tired of getting picked on. We had a new principal. His name was Lionel Ward. He walked into the library, saw me cowering in the library and reading encyclopedias, and within a year, he turned me into the student council president, my very first leadership position. He saw me, and he saw in me what I didn't see in myself. You got to find people like that. You got to find people like my mentor, Zig Ziglar. Anybody ever heard of Zig Ziglar? If you've never heard of Zig Ziglar, I want you, when you get an opportunity, go to YouTube and just type in Zig Ziglar, the world's greatest motivational speaker. And when I was a child, he used to have these PBS specials where he would do these motivational talks on PBS specials, and I could barely talk, but I was trying to follow along with him, so I grew up watching him. I had the opportunity to share the stage with Zig Ziglar. And after I got done speaking, Zig Ziglar walks up to me and says, "You are going to be a great public speaker one day." And I was only a teenager at the time. He spoke into me when other people were trying to take from me. You've got to surround yourself with people like that. People like my two psychology professors from right here at Angelo State. Dr. William Fuller and Mrs. Sandy Maxedon Love. Anybody remember those names? I know that when I was here, Russell probably remembers it. You probably had Miss Maxedon for psychology, right? Mrs. Maxedon, Dr. Fuller and Mrs. Maxedon told me that I could outgrow my childhood trauma. As psychology professors, they were really my counselors. And they helped me, especially in my first semester as a student, they helped me to realize that I could leave the past behind and I could soar with greatness. Listen, if you want to fly high, take a look. You want to fly high? Don't surround yourself with people who clip your wings. You need to surround yourself with people who are going to pour into you. Watch this. People who are going to say positive things to you, and people who will care enough about you to tell you when you're screwing up. If you don't have a mentor yet, I want to offer some suggestions for you. This is the type of person you should look for. Now watch this. If they do not meet these criteria that I'm going to show you, if they do not meet these criteria, they are not qualified to mentor you. Just because they're older than you does not mean they're a mentor. Just because they've done what you're trying to do does not make them a mentor. If they don't share these qualities, they're not qualified. But I want everybody in this room, if you don't have one yet, I want you to make it your mission to find yourself a mentor. Take a look. These are the right people you need to find. Number one, first criteria, seek somebody who sees beyond your present struggles and sees your potential. They may know that right now you're a big rock, but they see the sculpture that you can become. You need to find somebody who not only is successful, but they can see what you can be. Find somebody who sees your potential. If they don't see greatness in you, they are not qualified to mentor you. Does that make sense? Ready for the second criteria? Write this one down. Be intentional about finding your mentor. Be intentional. Mentors don't just fall out of the sky. And maybe I should say it this way. Mentors don't always fall out of the sky. Because for me, remember I talked about my principal, Lionel Ward? I didn't find him. He found me. Remember, I was hiding in the library, afraid of being bullied. So I didn't find him. He found me. But that's not the norm. The norm is you've got to be intentional. You've got to go after them. I mentor people all the time, and I have them come in, and I send them out just like a mother bird. When they're done, sometimes I have to kick them out of the nest. I'm like, I've given you all you need. You're ready to fly. And I kick them out to make room for somebody else. Okay? But you've got to find somebody. You've got to find somebody who meets these criteria. Watch this. It has to be somebody who has already successfully done, listen to me, please, somebody who has already successfully done what you're trying to do. Not only have they successfully done it, but they're willing to pour into you. I was at a family gathering, and a nephew of mine was asking somebody else in the family about relationships. Now, this person they were asking has been married and divorced 3 times. You know where I'm going with this, don't you? When my nephew was there, I pulled him off to the side. I'm like, the last person who needs to be given relationship advice is somebody who has been up and down the altar and back and forth in divorce courts. Listen, the only thing they can teach you is how to lose somebody. They can't teach you how to keep somebody. Be careful who you listen to. If they have not already successfully done it, they cannot mentor you, and you've got to be intentional. Seek them out. Mentors I've had over the years, I've talked to them, sometimes in presentations like this. That's where I met Zig Ziglar at a presentation like this, and I walked up to him, and he took me under his wing. And you're going to be great. You've got to be intentional. Here's the third criteria. Now, this is the one that we don't want to hear, but this is the one we probably need to hear the most. When it comes to selecting a mentor, and I always tell people who ask me to mentor them, and I'm glad to do it, but I always tell them, if you're looking for somebody who's always going to be a cheerleader, I'm not the one. Watch this. You need to find somebody who is not only going to be your cheerleader, but somebody who will break their foot off in your butt when you don't do the right thing. Let me say that again, because I meant every word of that. A good mentor is not just a cheerleader. A good mentor is somebody who will metaphorically shake you when you're not doing what you're supposed to do and say, you've got to do better than this. I've had mentees who have gotten ticked off with me because I just basically told them, you're being lazy and I'm not dealing with your laziness. When you're ready to grow, call me back. Click. I had one mentee I did that with. He was pissed at me for 3 months. Came back 3 months later, Dr. Noble, you're right. I know that. You ready to start over? Yeah. See, I'm not just going to cheer for you. When you're not doing the right thing, I'm going to get in your behind. Why? Because I care too much about you to let you fall by the wayside. You need somebody who cares enough about you to shake you and say, you're being lazy. Snap out of it. Now, if they're not willing to challenge you, they are not qualified to mentor you. Okay? Shout them back out to me. What was step number 1? Anybody remember? What was step number 1? Recognize the lies for what they are. Step number 2, surround yourself with the right people. Everybody ready for step number 3? You ready? Say, bring it on, Doc. Here's step number 3. Now, I'm going to give you all the opportunity to practice this one because this was very important. I'm going to give you the chance to practice this one. You've got to own your wins. Let me tell you something, that the people that I grew up in church, I grew up in church, and if I believed in reincarnation, I would say my previous life was in church as well. But I grew up in church, and something they told me in church. Now, for those of you who didn't go to church, it doesn't matter because this applies to everybody. But when I was in church as a kid, they told me whenever anybody compliments you, what you're supposed to do is say, well, it's not me, it's Jesus. It's not me, it's the God in me. It's not me, it's Allah. Listen, I know they meant well, but hear me, that's bad advice. Let me tell you why it's bad advice. Because when you always defer to somebody else, you never own your own success. And there's nothing wrong with you saying, you know what, I worked my butt off for that. I earned that. See, watch this, because the same Bible, for those of you who grew up in church like me, the same Bible that says, do not think more highly of yourself than you ought, also says, faith without works is dead. You know what that means? God ain't going to do it all for you. Amen. God's not going to do it all for you. See, watch it. You come to college and you say, Lord, help me to be an honor roll student, and you don't go to class and you don't open the book, God ain't answering that prayer. That's not the way it works. Even if you're a person of faith, you still got to do something. Own your wins. So here's what I want you to do, and I'm going to give you an opportunity to practice. Next time somebody gives you a compliment, don't defer. Don't say, well, it's not really me. It's the Holy. Listen, next time somebody gives you a compliment, I just want you to say 5 words. Everybody ready? I'm going to give you a chance to practice this. Say 5 words. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm going to give you all 30 seconds to practice. Here's what I'm going to do. Listen closely. I want you to get into pairs. Try to get with 2 people, 3 at the most. Okay? Get in pairs. Find a partner, find a partner, find a partner, find a partner. Right now, I'm going to give you 30 seconds to do this. Okay? Pair up with somebody, 3 people at the most, but try not to go over 3 because you've only got 30 seconds. Okay? Everybody ready? Here's what I'm going to ask you to do. Here's what I'm going to ask you to do. I'm going to ask the first person to give somebody a compliment. If you're in pairs, you give this person the compliment. And when you receive the compliment, all you're going to say is, thank you, I appreciate that. And then you switch. Then you give the compliment, and after you get the compliment, what you say is, thank you, I appreciate. That's all I want you to stop deferring, because you need to own your own success. I'm going to give you 30 seconds, okay? Now, when we're done, so that you know when to come back to me, listen closely. When you're done, I'm going to say, "Go Rams," and you're going to shout it back at me. I'm going to say, "Go Rams," you say, "Go Rams." We'll do it 3 times. Let's practice so you'll know how to come back. Go Rams! Go Rams! Go Rams! Everybody ready to pair up? You got 30 seconds. Compliment and receive it, and then give it back. On your mark, get set, go. 30 seconds. Ten seconds left. If you have a switch, switch. All right. Go Ram! Go Ram! Go Ram! Give yourselves a round of applause. Give yourselves a round of applause. Come on. I forgot to give you the instruction. When you do that to somebody and they start saying, "Well, it's not me," hit them upside the head with a Bible and say, "Own your wins," okay? It's okay to say, "I worked hard for this," because faith without works is dead. Watch this. Y'all ready for my next nugget that goes with that point? Take a look. Luck didn't get you here. Your leadership did. If you're here, you have earned it. You worked for it. You do not become successful by osmosis. That's not the way it works. So if you are successful at anything, give yourself a round of applause. Pat yourself on the back, because you worked to get there. You worked yourself to get there. Stop deferring. Everybody ready for the next step? Now, all of this talk about kicking imposter syndrome to the curb means absolutely nothing if you don't do something with what you learned today. I've already given you a couple of assignments. I'm going to give you some more before we're done, because this is college, so I like to give assignments. But you've got to take some bold action. I want to give you something that may sound very scary to you. I want you to think right now of something that you're somewhat apprehensive about doing or scared to do. Something you're apprehensive. I know some people don't like the word scared, so if you don't want to say "I'm scared," I'm apprehensive. Think about something that you're kind of scared to do. I mean, it could be something like riding a horse, or it could be something like raising your hand in class, or it could be something like asking that cute guy to go out and have dinner with you, or something, asking that cute young lady, whatever it is. I want you to think of something that you're scared to do or apprehensive about doing it. And I want you, before the week is out, to take a chance. I want you to take some bold action. I'm going to give you a couple of seconds. If you're writing, go ahead and just write down. Now, if you're not writing, just think about it. I want you to think about something that you might be scared or apprehensive about. Write it down or burn it into your memory. I want you to give yourself a week to psych yourself up and do what you're scared to do. You know why? Here's the reason why. I'm going to ask you to read that out loud to me on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Thank you. Confidence is not the absence of fear. Can I give you a tip? If you're waiting for everything to be 100% right, you'll never move. Because guess what? Things are never going to be 100% right. Circumstances are never going to be 100% favorable. One of my favorite sayings is, sometimes you just have to jump off the cliff and grow your wings as you fall. If you're waiting for circumstances to be always right, you are somebody that I say has the paralysis of analysis. You analyze everything to death, and you end up not doing anything. So before the week is out, I want you to look at that list that you just either wrote physically or mentally and take a chance. And guess what? The person you ask out, if that's what you're going to do, if they say no, guess what? This world is filled with other people. There's going to be somebody who says, I've been waiting for you to ask me out. Let's go. I mean, somebody, just go ahead and take the chance. Learn to take no. I told the class this morning, the word no is my vitamin. When I hear no, I move. I love it when people, I got over that when I was a child, but I love it when people tell me no now. You'll never do that. Oh, really? Watch me do it. And I do it just to shut people up. Best way to shut people up, don't argue with people. Hear me, please. Don't argue with folks. Success is the best revenge. Just be so successful that they can't say a freaking word. Everybody ready for step number 5? Here's the 5th and final step. Now here, ladies and gentlemen, is where everything gets really powerful. Your success is not just about you. Once you get to the point where you have kicked imposter syndrome to the curb, once you get to the point where you have that confidence that your father never had in you, once you get to the point that you have that confidence that your mom never had in you, or your teacher or your sibling, once you get to the point where you believe in yourself more than they believed in you, it's your opportunity to pay it forward. One of the things I love about the Williams sisters tennis players, I forget which one it was, but one of them had just won a tennis match. And the entire time she was playing, people were booing her. I mean, every time she touched the racket, people started booing her. I forget whether it was Venus or Serena. It was one of them. But after the match was over, she won the match, by the way, even though everybody was booing her. And after it was over, the person from ESPN, I know you heard all of the boos while you were playing. How do you manage to still play when people are booing you? She dropped a gem that day, and here's what she said. Yeah, I heard them booing, but I wanted myself to win more than they wanted me to lose. Do you want yourself to win more than they want you to lose? Once you get to that point, you've got to realize you have an obligation. Hear me. Obligation, not option. It's an obligation to reach back and do for somebody else what someone has done for you. See, that's why I mentor so much, because somebody did it for me. And the reason why I'm always pulling new people into my circle and mentoring people literally around the globe is because I remember being that scared little ugly kid that nobody believed in. You gotta pay it forward. Once you get something under your belt, you've got to share it with somebody else. Here's the reason why. Your breakthrough isn't just for you. Your breakthrough is the blueprint for somebody else's success. You've got to realize that people need to hear your story. Stop hiding your story. People need to hear your story. Even if your story is a story of abuse, and I won't ask you to raise your hand, but I know with this many people, somebody's been through an abusive childhood. Somebody may be in an abusive relationship right now. You're going to get on the other side of it, but when you do, you've got to remember your breakthrough isn't just for you. You all hear me? Your breakthrough is somebody else's blueprint. They need to hear that if you made it through, they can make it through. Don't be afraid to share your story. I'm going to share a story with you, and I always get permission to share people's personal stories. I have permission to share this story, but I want to share a story with you from somebody who understands this. He was a little kid, and he had a severe stuttering problem. In fact, he could barely get his name out of his mouth. And one day, when he was in 3rd grade, his teacher gave everybody an assignment. The teacher said, here's what I want you to do. I want each of you to come up in front of the class one by one, and I want you to tell everybody your name and tell everybody what you want to be when you grow up. Well, this little boy wanted to be a teacher. He had teachers in his family, but he couldn't talk. He was in speech therapy every day. In fact, he would be in class for the first 15 minutes of the day, and then they would dismiss him to go down the hallway where he would spend the rest of the day with a speech therapist because he couldn't function in class. He couldn't talk. So when he got up in front of the class, he was supposed to say his name, and here's what he did. My name And he couldn't even get his name out, and everyone started laughing at him, including his teacher. Here's what his teacher said: "You'll never be a teacher. You can't talk. Teachers have to talk every day. You'll never be a teacher. You can't talk." He ran out of class in humiliation. Anybody ever been embarrassed like that in front of a crowd? Can you imagine how this child was feeling? He ran out of class in humiliation. He ran down the hallway to his speech therapist. Now remember, he had to spend every day with a speech therapist because he couldn't function in class. He went to his speech therapist and told his speech therapist through his tears what had just happened to him. "I got laughed out of class, and the teacher laughed at me too." Here's what his speech therapist said, and it stuck with him. She said, "One day, the people who are ridiculing you will be applauding you." He didn't believe it, but she believed in him. So here's what she did. Knowing that he had just been embarrassed and humiliated in class, she started teaching him Shakespeare. She would say a line from a Shakespearean play, and he would repeat it. And they would do Shakespeare every day. And then she started helping him with the Martin Luther King Jr. speech. And she would say a line from the "I Have a Dream" speech, and he would say a line back to her. And 2 weeks after they started this process, she comes into the room and says, "Hey, guess what? I just signed you up for a citywide speech competition for elementary school students. You get to get on stage and say a speech." And he looked at her like some of you all are looking at me. "Are you nuts? I can't talk." And she said, "One day, the people who are ridiculing you will be applauding you." They worked and they worked. A month later, he stands on stage at the citywide NAACP speech competition, and he delivered the "I Have a Dream" speech by Martin Luther King from memory. Did not stutter one time. He got a trophy, first place trophy. Trophy was bigger than he was. You know what he did on Monday morning when it came time to go to school, right? He took that trophy. He strutted into class like George Jefferson. He was like, he put that trophy on his teacher's desk, and he said the words that his speech therapist told him to say: "Next time you laugh at somebody, remember me." And walked back to his desk. Fast forward a little bit. He grows up, goes to high school, and ends up being the class speaker, the commencement speaker for high school. The same kid who got laughed out of class is now the keynote speaker at high school graduation. Fast forward a little bit. He then goes to college, majors in English, gets a minor in speech communication. Guess how he worked his way through college? He did voiceovers on the radio and television. The kid who got laughed out of class is now making money being a speaker. Then he went on to graduate school, got a degree in speech communication. Then he went and got a doctorate in speech communication and educational curriculum. And now he travels the world speaking to people, helping them to maximize their potential. Not too long ago, he was in Japan. A few weeks ago, he was teaching government leaders in Colorado. He has spoken to the FBI. The Social Security Administration is one of his clients. The U.S. Navy is one of his clients. He's all over the world, and today he's standing on stage at his alma mater, Angelo State University, letting you know that if I did it, you can too. My story is not just for me, because there's somebody in this room who doesn't believe you can do it, and I am living proof. I have been dropped in this room today to remind you that whatever your wildest dream is, guess what? It's still too small. Dream bigger. You can do everything. You've got the power to rewrite the story that people have tried to write for you. If that resonates with you, give yourselves a round of applause. Come on. Let me just ask you a question. Out of curiosity, by show of hands, how many people here got something today that they think was helpful, useful, and worthwhile? Anybody learn something today? Thank you. All right, thank you. Here is how I want you to repay me. Best way you can pay me back is just to take this less than 2-minute survey. And after this, I'm going to put the attendance QR code on for you. I just want you to take out your camera or take out your QR scanner. And if you don't have a camera or a QR scanner, then just go to this the website right here. And when you are prompted, I just want you to enter the code that says slides. It's less than 2 minutes. It's a less than 2 minute survey. And when you're done with this, I'm going to give you that bonus I promised. As soon as you're done with this, you're going to get the PowerPoint slides that I promised you earlier. The reason why I'm doing this, I'm on a mission to get my message in front of as many people as possible, and getting feedback from people like you helps me to do that. So share with me what was most helpful, what was most useful for you, what you think other audiences might want to hear. So I'll give you a chance to do that while we play a little travel music for about 2 minutes. Or maybe we could hum to ourselves. That's cool. Yeah. When you're done, let me know you're done by putting your phone away and looking up. Look up at me when you're done. So, thank you, my man. Thank you. Peace. God's blessings on you, man. Yeah. Less than 2 minutes, and whenever you're done, if you will, just put your phone away and look up. Let me know you're done, and I'll give you some final thoughts, and we're out of here. Again, whenever you're done, just please put your phone away and look up. Make eye contact with me to let me know you're finished. Thank you. Make eye contact with me to let me know that you're finished. And when you're done, this presentation that you just saw will be sent to you absolutely free of charge. Again, when you're done, just look up. Let me know you're finished. I'll give you a closing thought and your attendance code, and you can be on your merry way. Good. Some of you still taking it. Again, if you don't have a QR reader, that's okay. Just go to the link there and all right, when you're done, look up, please. Let me know you're finished. If you're still working on that survey, just kind of raise your hand because I don't want to move without you. So, okay, good. Okay, a couple of you still working on it. No problem. No rush. We are right on time, so. I have about a 30-second closing comment, and then we're done for the day. I'm going to go get something to munch on. I know jealousy is a bad thing, but let me just tell y'all, when I was here at ASU, we didn't have a Chick-fil-A and a Starbucks. Y'all are so spoiled. Spoiled rotten. Shoot, we had to walk to Shakey's to get something to eat. Shoot. And most of the time, it was ramen noodles and corn dogs. Y'all got a Chick-fil-A sitting up in the student. I'm like, what kind of school is it? Why did they do this? President Vincent, why did... anyway, so. Thank President Hawkins and everybody, you spoiled brats. No, I love y'all. I'm messing with you. I'm messing with you. Spoiled brats. Walk to class with a cup in your hand from Starbucks. That's just crazy. All right, everybody done? All right. If you're done, oh, somebody still working on it? You need that again? All right, let me give you a final thought. I'm going to leave you today with the words with which I close every speaking engagement literally around the world for the past 30 years. I leave you with these words, and I'll give you your attendance code. When you walk through a storm, hold your head up high, and don't be afraid of the dark. At the end of the storm, there's a golden sky and the sweet silver song of a lark. Walk on through the wind, walk on through the rain, though your dreams be tossed and blown. Walk on, with hope in your heart, and you'll never walk alone. Your life is in your hands. Go change the world. God bless you all.